I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not gonna like go back crap crazy that I didn't see. I'm not hearing the characters in my ear. But if you really want to, obviously, if you accidentally turn down your volumes and
Not
you
like
want to
they were
change some
talking
stuff,
anyways.
yeah, yeah.
All right, anyways.
Oof.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Gacha Interact. In today's video and this weekly news, we're going to be taking first a look at the new Spiral Abyss and talking about that, some good team options you can use, especially just after the Stygian Onslaught. I feel like Stygian Onslaught's kind of tempered us for just harder content in general, so I feel like coming back to this Abyss, it's just been a little easier. But we're going to talk about that first, and then after that, we're going to look at some of the non-Krai stuff. Recently, we've gotten a lot of trailers, teasers, and previews. A lot of other creators have been, talking about that stuff. The new character that's a Dendra character, or there's a lot of stuff to talk about there. First off, diving into our first thing is, once again, the Spiral Abyss, since that did just reset not too long ago. So what are we looking at, Vixen?
Well, I mean, walking right into the Spiral Abyss right now, looking at what we have here, kind of just pulling up at least first and foremost the enemies, obviously, because that's what we really only care about here. Obviously, for the little bit that you're going to have on floor 12, considering really that's the one that everybody's going to be paying attention to. The first half is going to have cryo damage dealt by all party members will be increased by 75%. The second half is going to have a Night Soul aligned damage increase for all party members by 75% as well. So, cryo basically first half, Night Soul on the second half. Now, looking actually at the chambers and what we have to fight against, we obviously originally did our runs with probably the most strongest teams to really run this with. And if you have these strongest teams, this Abyss is going to take you probably less than 5 minutes or so. And when I was doing it, Rift had already done it before me.
Yeah.
And you were saying how basically it was like doing the interface, choosing your cards and, hitting the start button and waiting for the loading screen was actually longer sometimes than the battle. And that's pretty true when you get to the idea of, the strongest teams, which in a very basic sense is going to be, obviously this is pushing for cryo first half. So, the Skirk, best in slot team is going to be there. And then Night Soul line damage, it's, Mawick is the strongest. And that just goes even further with that buff as well. But outside of all of that, the first half for the first chamber is going to be Automaton. Now, I know when we had this in the other endgame, Stygian Onslaught, it was really rough for a lot of people if you didn't have the right team for it. You still do want some cryo in this team, but at least from what I found, I did this with an Ayaka, a Farina. I went like multiple tiers and kind of like slowly made the team what you would maybe say worse, and took away characters that would kind of made it, really, really good. At the very end of the day, the worst I could make it, clearing it in a minute and a half, was my Ayaka, my Farina, Xingqiu, and Charlotte. And that took a minute and a half. And that was probably the lowest echelon of what I could get done for that first half. Now, I don't know about you, Rift, but anybody basically above that, as long as you have cryo, and it doesn't even have to be the main DPS character, because I even use a Neuvillette Freeze team. But as long as you're having cryo consistently happen in this, it's going to bring it to the point where it can take a lot more damage. So as long as you can do that, you can kind of kill this thing pretty easily, especially because it is Chamber 1.
Yeah, and that's cool for you because you didn't even have a Scofier in that team, so that kind of gives hope for maybe people that don't have a Scofier. And they're like, man, everyone always talks about doing these Skirk teams, even these Risley Ayaka teams, but it's always because they have a Scofier. I don't have a Scofier. I can't make that work. So this is nice knowing like, hey, you didn't have a Scofier in that team.
Are you looking for discounts on your favorite games? If so, Lootbar has got you covered. Lootbar is the go-to top-up service for all types of gamers for all types of games. And with that, Lootbar also offers tons of different benefits like delivery within 30 minutes of your purchase, if not even quicker and within seconds. They also have secure transactions because, well, for all games, including things like Genshin, for instance, you only really need a UID and the server that it is with as well and associated with. That means that there's no need for any passwords or emails, so those things stay out of other people's hands and stay with you. Covering gachas like Genshin Impact and Love in Deep Space to other games like PUBG, Lootbar covers your transactions the more that you are going to game. And what's the best part? New users get 10% off of their first transaction as well. To start saving today with Lootbar, go ahead and click the link in the description or in the pinned comment as well. Now, let's get back to the content.
I even tried, I did Chongyun, and for that I did have a Scofier. I didn't have enough time to actually go and test Chongyun without a Scofier, but it was clearing in a really good amount of time. Like, I bet I could have taken out Escoffier and subbed it in for just like a 4-star like Rosaria or something, because I was already using Charlotte. I think my team was Chongyun, Farina, Escoffier, and Charlotte. So I had the triple cryo for really that first boss. Cryo's just like gonna do well no matter what. Like, Charlotte's really just there for the application from her burst. She is a healer for Farina if you don't have Escoffier, technically speaking. There's a lot of things you can do. I used Chongyun to do it first half. Chongyun was doing 30Ks, and my Chongyun's still built on a melt build, actually. He's on like a 2-piece attack, 2-piece cryo damage, and he's got like 70-something crit rate over like 140, something. It's a melt build, is my point. So even though he wasn't on like Blizzard Strayer or even Marshazé because he was with Farina for a freeze setup, he still was doing 30 to 40K normals. It was popping off. And then again, yes, Scofia is kind of helping that. But I think the point being said is Chongyun was able to do it with Escoffier. You were able to do it with Ayaka without Escoffier. So it kind of gives you a good idea of just how much investment you really don't actually need. You just need more or less the correct team archetype. You need to make sure you're doing a freeze team, especially kind of hyper focusing on the cryo side of things, because the more cryo you have, the easier that first half boss is going to be. And even when we get into things like the second chamber, when we have those YUBs and like those electro shields, cryo just does really well at getting rid of that. I guess it's what is that, third chamber then? Because second chamber just looks like a bunch of health, getting through a bunch of health. So yeah, that third chamber. So
I would have to say, like, overall, like, the Ayaka team that I was talking about, like the very lowest echelon of the team, had a lot more issues when you got to Chamber 3, which is what I was going to bring up next. Obviously, it really just came down to her not doing enough damage. It really wasn't that she couldn't take the shields off of these characters or anything, but it just, I couldn't deal enough damage. And thankfully, you know, obviously the high amount of elemental damage that she can do with her normals and dashing consistently, the Farina still going off field, you know, Xingqiu being there, it purely just was a damage check that I couldn't clear getting into Chamber 3, and that could just be either a skill issue or whatever, but you could probably still do somewhat okay with that setup. I just don't think it's gonna, especially once you hit Chamber 3, the levels are too high, the damage is just not there enough, but you slap Escoffier into the team, or you just give that team a better DPS and maybe some better supports, throw Risley in there instead, and maybe a different character like Yelan or something like that, or maybe a Shenhe or something. You might be able to get more out of that team just by having a better character there to kind of run with. That's how at least I feel about the first chamber.
That is the nicer thing about the Abyss, where Stygian, you can't like go and change things. At least with the Abyss, if your account's still maybe on the newer side, or you barely have what it takes, you can at least like switch up your teams just for the second chamber or just for the third chamber, and it doesn't like reset your chamber 1 progress, even though it was a different team that did it. So that is nice. Like, you can kind of work around, go back through. It can be a little bit of a hassle to have to go back all the way through and do the fights all over again just to get back up to Chamber 3 if that's the one you're clearing for with a different team. But at least that's an option that you can do. So like if like Ayaka was just not powerful enough, you can try something else. Maybe try a more powerful team as well on the second half, just to allow more time for the first half. Because I will say, just as another disclaimer, when I was using Chongyun, yes, it was with Escoffier, but my other side, to kind of keep it balanced, I was using a C0 Raiden overload, and that can also barely clear. I did clear. Chamber 3 was fine. Chongyun first half, Raiden C0 second half. I cleared that and got 3 stars on Chamber 3. Chamber 2 was the hard one, because on the second half of Chamber 2, the Raiden overload team just really suffers, because that's a very burst heavy team, and the YUBs take away your burst. And in a specific, like, it was Raiden, Chevreuse, Bennett, Xiangling team. When Raiden and Xiangling don't have their burst, Chevreuse is almost doing nothing. She's just kind of there at that point. It just became a Bennett showdown for sitting in his, well, I didn't even have his ult because they're taking it away. So it's just a Bennett like skill showdown just to get off those shield, and that just takes way too long. So this is where like a place where like Varessa would shine, Varessa overload, just because she is a catalyst. She can continually deal elemental damage to take off shields even when all the bursts are taken away. So Raiden's just too tied to her burst.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to talk about the second half in general next. We have the Ectomosaurus, which I think we're cutting off a little bit here, but basically that other side that Rift's kind of covering here is the Ectomosaurus, and then you have the Wayward Hermetic Spirit Speaker right here on the right side. This is the boss that kind of like has the multiple different versions of itself as like cryo like shields, and you have to like basically get rid of it. Obviously, Malwika did really well against it. Obviously, pyro characters in general, pyro DPSs do exceptionally well. And off-field, Malwika can do pretty helpful things with this. Xiangling,
Yes.
off-field pyro, obviously a very solid thing to go against. Even an on-fielder, I did not use Arlecchino in this run, actually, surprisingly, just because of how easy it would have been. If I knew
Arlecchino
that
would be
Malwika
fine.
did it, I knew that Arlecchino was going to do it. And so actually what I did was I made it a little harder, quote unquote harder for myself by using Varessa on this side. I didn't really make it too hard, considering still, even though she is an Electro DPS, she still can get rid of some of those shields, kind of there a little bit. Honestly, just popping down a Bennett Burst, doing normals and skills and whatever to just get rid of it. Also, she does a lot of damage in general within and of herself.
Right.
So Varessa can still do really well. Second half, obviously you've got the Eremite Stone Enchanter, which is the Geo Eremite, where he kind of brings in his little like Geo Crocodile or something and brings it in. And then you have the Wyob that goes after it, the Cryo Wyob, and then you have the Eroding Avatar of Lava. So definitely you're seeing a lot more why Pyro's pretty helpful on the second half. As long as you have Pyro going on, it looks like on the second half, in any sense of the word, whether it's on field, off field. Same thing with the first half. If it's on field, off field, cryo, totally works. Once again, I did the Neuvillette freeze teams all the way throughout. It did fine. And then obviously chamber 3 with the Yum-Kasor King Pyro. Even if it's just a Bennett, I mean, he's just skilling and hitting those things.
As long as you hit
little
those things on the ground, you're good. Yeah. So for me, I was actually surprised that some other characters I was trying, Chaska first half actually did really, really good, better than I thought.
You told me that, yeah.
I was actually pleasantly surprised, and I did a really weird team for her too. Usually Chaska is going after, like, you throw Malwika in the team, sit Lolly, and you're kind of making sure Chaska can have some pyro hits on top of cryo, so she's getting either a forward melt or a reverse melt, either way. I actually did a freeze Chaska team, so I did Chaska, Farina, Escoffier. No, I didn't even use Escoffier. I did Chaska, Farina, Charlotte, and sit Lolly. So no Escoffier, by the way. And that team did way better than I thought. I cleared the cryo boss first half in like just 1 minute. And keep in mind, all C0, and I also don't crown my skills. My Chaska's 188, my Farina's 188. Like, just to give you guys some context. And that was clearing really, really fast. Charlotte's also just a typical Charlotte Fav build, nothing crazy. I mean, what can Charlotte do? I guess she could be TTDS, but I wasn't even doing that. She was on Fav. So it just did really well, really surprised me, which makes me think about Wanderer being a possibility. Haven't tried it, don't really know about that, just because Wanderer is a lot less damage than someone like Chaska, but
yeah,
it's probably like possible. I don't want to say it's impossible, but I also haven't tried it. I wanted to try it, just didn't get around to it. And I actually did use, you were talking about on the second half, Malwika or just off-field Pyro is enough, and I was going to say yes, it is, because I used Mualani on the second half with Nahida, Shalon, and Malwika. Nahida just there for the burning with Malwika for more just consistency. Also, the EM buff for Mualani goes a long way. But Malwika was plenty of Pyro app, just her for the Spirit Speaker. If the Spirit Speaker put up all the shields, I was just kind of on-fielding Malwika until they were all taken care of. Then I was able to switch back to Mualani, get a lot of good damage in there. And because of the Night Soul aligned damage buff here being like 75%, that is a massive buff for really, I mean, obviously all Night Soul aligned characters, but Mualani just was hitting so hard. I'm hitting like easy 500,000 hits on the normals. Her burst, I got an 800k in there. And then, and once again, guys, my investment same, C0. My Mualani's talents are 188, so there's a lot of room for damage improvement. Like, we're talking like 100 to 200,000 more damage, just because going from 8 to 10 is a pretty big increase, especially on a nuke type of talent where Mualani is like, or like Kanisha's skill, Malwika's burst. I recently took my Malwika's burst from 8 to 10, and the damage difference was like 200,000 damage, which is a lot. So there's just a lot of things that I didn't think would work, and they worked. Well, I thought they would work, but they worked much better than I even anticipated. So I was pleasantly surprised with that. And also knowing that Chaska and Mualani are getting reruns soon, hey, they can do this a bit. So yeah,
Yeah, there's just some very interesting things, and this Abyss, I think once again, Stygian definitely made us think a little bit differently about the Abyss.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
this Abyss may be a little bit easier. If you don't have a cryo DPS, once again, I do want to say, as long as you have a way to have some pretty consistent off-field cryo, you should be fine.
Hmm.
Obviously, the Overseer, it's not as strong as the one in Stygian, especially on like something like Fearless or Dire.
Yeah, it's not even
So you don't
close.
really have to worry about that really as much. Um, and then obviously your Rune Graders, Rune Drakes, and Construction Mechs are just pretty easy to kind of
The
kill and take
damage
care of.
check, yeah.
Yeah. And then the two different Wyobs, the Electro one has an Electro Shield up. Cryo, once again, gonna take care of that pretty well. And then also, you have your Geo one, which did have a special shield on it where it just needed more consistent attacks, but still
Hmm.
could get the job done. So I think overall, it wasn't that bad of an Abyss. If and
Yeah.
that's kind of why we tried to change some things and move some things around and kind of be like, okay, is it really that much of a problem? With what we do, how difficult is it actually with even some of the worst teams? As long as you're, like you said, Rift, as long as you're staying in the archetypes it wants you to play, you overall should be somewhat fine. All right, and looking past now the Abyss, we're now going to be talking about some other speculations and things that are coming up in the future. Some things we do know of that are actually going to be here, and some things that are just kind of there as an extra, no matter what we do. So the first thing I guess we can kind of bring up that is maybe not speculation and is a reality is actually the Yelan skin and Bennett skin. I do kind of want to bring that up. Obviously, it's already been news that we've known, already thrown in the actual live streams as well. So we already know what that's going to be. Here, obviously, we see a Yelan skin and a Bennett skin. Probably, as you can see, it says the event skin you can kind of get through and get Bennett kind of his own little skin, so that's kind of cool. At least it's a free one, and it looks like Yelan's is going to be a 5-star one, probably one you're going to have to purchase. But that is kind of, once again, something I did want to kind of bring up more than anything else, at least for us. Now, also with this, I do want to bring up the other big thing with to talk about, which is our banners that are dropping next. So have some interesting ones, like you talked about. Some other characters that you used in the Abyss. Obviously, the
Hmm.
first phase we have Anefa and Sitlali, and then the second half we have Mualani and Chaska. So, I don't know. How are we thinking? This is most likely going to be the last version before we jump into Nodcry. So, if that's the case, looking maybe obviously we'll do a to pull or not to pull on these banners, like we always do. Like, should you pull on these characters? But I guess right
Hmm.
now, how are these banners looking?
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, it's probably our last banner before Notcry. I don't know if we've ever had like a point .9 version ever, so that'd be interesting
Yeah.
to have. That'd be a first. But yeah, so like this being right before Notcry, obviously Anefa is the talk of the town because it's a new kind of just combat reaction with a lunar charge. It's going to be a whole new thing. The next Stygian onslaught is also calling for that with the cactus boss having that there. Anefa is obviously going to be best in slot for that and shine there. Obviously, you can probably do it without. There'll probably be talk about that when that comes around. But the banners themselves, I think Anefa obviously is going to have value. New reaction, like I've said. But I think going into Nodcry, and we were kind of talking about this earlier, there's going to be a free character, most likely. You know, kind of like Kachina was free for Natlin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Natlin thing was, okay, now these characters, the new thing is Night Soul aligned damage. And even with exploration and puzzles, sometimes you needed Night Soul things or just whatever. And so Kachina being free really helped out players that weren't pulling Mualani, Kanish, all of these, premium Night Soul or
Right.
Natlin characters, right? So I feel like, yeah, we're getting Anefa here. We're going to be getting the new Dendro character, which we'll talk more about later. But we're going to be getting a free 4-star character, which we'll also talk a little bit more later as well. So I think that's obviously that's going to be needed. It'd be very weird if we didn't get something like that because there probably will be puzzles in Nod Cry or something that calls for, oh, you need to do some kind of lunar reaction. It doesn't have to be lunar
Mm-hmm.
charged. It could be lunar bloom, lunar vape, melt, whatever it might be. Just a lunar reaction, just like a Night Soul aligned damage. It doesn't matter if it's Hydro from Mualani. It doesn't matter if it's Pyro from Mawika. It's just the fact that it's a Night Soul aligned, right? We see that a lot. And so I feel like with Nod Cry, it's going to be, okay, do a lunar reaction. Doesn't matter which one, just do a lunar reaction. And so with that being said, I think the new 4-star that we will get, it would make a lot of sense to have a free character, kind of like Ichino once again, to be able to have access to doing that kind of thing for the players that aren't going to be pulling an Effa, even the players that aren't pulling the new Dendro character. So I know that's kind of a side tangent, but it is something to kind of keep in mind with looking at specifically if you want to pull an Effa. I would just say don't feel like you have to pull an Effa because it's this new thing that you might lock content because you don't have access to a lunar reaction. The new 4-star should give you that access. It'd be very, very weird if we didn't, and that if we didn't, it'd be a whole problem to talk about, to be honest. But looking at just the banner, I guess for now, that's kind of my thoughts on it. An Effa's value. It's like she's gonna be good, but not necessary. We'll kind of just see. Sitlali's really good. She's best in slot for obviously the best DPS in the game, Mawika. Mawika's best team has Sitlali in it, so naturally Sitlali has a lot of good value because she's part of the best teams in the game, like team. She's just part of that. She can also be a part of Skirk's best team if you don't have Shenhe or you don't even have Yelan or Yelan's being used elsewhere. Sitlali is really, really good with Sitlali. What am I saying? Sitlali is really, really good with Skirk. And so because of that, I mean, those are already the top 2 teams in the entire game. Sitlali can be a part of both of them. And even outside of that, Sitlali shows up in a lot of other teams. She's just buffing the team. She's a shielder. She's a good shielder at that. I've even used her with Mualani, Chaska, who's getting a rerun. Both of those characters are getting reruns. More specifically, Chaska, Sitlali is good with. Sitlali is actually, I think, in part of Chaska's best team, which would be Sitlali, Mawika, and then it's kind of a toss-up. You could use Bennett there, you could use Farina there based on what you're going after or looking for, or maybe you want Farina on the other side, then you use Bennett there. But if Bennett wants to be on the other team, you use Farina there. That's kind of Chaska's best variance right there, and Sitlali's part of that once again. So Sitlali just... She's one of those characters that seems like she doesn't have a lot of pull value. She's like, she's kind of skippable. She's just a support. And it's not like she's doing crazy. Like, if you have to choose between her and Shilonen, obviously pick Shilonen because she's a more universal support. But Sitlali, honestly, when you sit down and think about it, actually shows up in a lot of really good teams and really does help boost these teams. So her value, I think, is kind of hidden. It's hard to see at first. That's just kind of my 2 cents on her.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just said everything basically there needs to be said about that banner, at least in the very least.
Do you have more about Mualani and Chaska? Because I could, you know me, I'm holding back.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I want to go back to the idea of, like, that's actually why I told you before we started recording this, like, I wanted to bring up when we talk about that other free unit, I was like, remember Kachina, because we got that is going to be something that's going to make an Effa less useful. So I know you've already talked about that, but I'm glad you brought that up because I really was like, hey, I need to make sure I talk about that because that's something, once again, bringing into the idea with Kachina as a character, but also thinking on the idea of like an Effa being brought in, as much as Emily is helpful. And Emily, we even talked about recently how she's been really, really good with the burning teams and how the Papilla, and all these other, and some of these other bosses are like, kind of have a weak point to just consistent hits and everything. I think that was almost kind of like an extra thing that kind of happened. I don't think that they were meant to be Kanish kind of like weakness pointed kind of unit, like bosses. I think it just kind of happened. And so I think
to be the best for it.
Right. And so before that though, she had no real good and great, fantastic use. And so I feel like that's going to be kind of an Effa. I think that this brand new shiny thing that we're doing with the lunar charge and lunar reactions and everything, get it now before it goes away. I think that it's probably best, in my opinion, just to skip. And if she is exceptionally useful down the line, you can always grab a rerun because she'll be one of the first reruns to get from Lunar. Now, overall, obviously, like you said, Sitlali has its own stuff to talk about. Mualani, I mean, as much as I really, really do think Mualani's good, and I think she's got some very good pull value, to make
written on your face.
to make her good, like she's no matter what, she still is strong. No matter if you put her on a premium team with all of her best units, like you talked about, she doesn't really need too much investment, and that can be kind of helpful for her. There are some even 4-star weapons that she can work with. She's still just a good character that can deal some good damage. Obviously, she's not going to be a top 5 DPS from what I know, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily take away from the fact that she is a good pull. So if you are looking for a Hydro character for damage, she's not necessarily terrible. She just has a very interesting, weird kind of way to play, and it takes some time to get used to that. Chaska is a very similar route. Usually with Animo characters, you want to make sure that you're doing like Animo damage, but with her, you're actually doing other elements, so you're not even trying to do it, which makes her actually usually easier to build and a lot easier and universally used, kind of like how Wanderer did. But even still with Wanderer, you still kind of used Farazan. In this sense, you could still use one of the characters here, Sitlali, in the team as well. Have the shield, protect her a little bit more, but also application for more cryo hits. You could put like multiple elements together and create your own reactions by literally having her do multiple different types of elemental hits. Putting Pyro and Cryo together to just do melt hits from Chaska. So Chaska, I think, is always going to be a strong pull for me. If I think anything even better than Mualani. Mualani's good and all. Once again, I just think that there's other characters that do nuke like multiple times better than what Mualani does consistently here. I think there are just better units right now to pull. Chaska, on the other hand, I think fits kind of similar to Kanish's niche, if you will. That was a little hard to say. But I think overall, looking at her, she still has maybe a better pull value than he does. Just because of the ability to run outside of, with him, he's kind of stuck to a burning team. Her, on the other hand, she can use a lot of different supports, which makes her a lot more friendly to newer players, but also a lot more flexible for maybe some people that are veterans and have a lot of different teams and need to move things around for the Abyss or other types of content. So, and honestly, she's a cowboy riding a huge 6-shooter. So, I mean, come on, that's just another pull factor for her. So,
yeah, I would have to agree. I was thinking about it myself. I am a Mualani main. She's my favorite character. But even so, if I had to choose between Mualani and Chaska, Chaska just is going to clear content more often than Mualani might. Because Mualani just has a very strict playstyle. It's very, very single target. So when you have to deal with AoE, she really suffers. Similar to kind of Hu Tao. I know a lot of times people compare her to Hu Tao because they're both single target. They both are vaporize oriented and they both are single targets. It's kind of the idea there. She has really high damage when you are fighting single target, like ridiculously high. Like, and we talked about the Abyss earlier. Like she was doing great because that Abyss didn't have like a bunch of enemies. It was just, okay, here's a boss there. Here's the Yumka Sword King, and Mualani's great for that. But Chaska is going to shine better in the AoE content, as well as just, like you said, being more versatile, being able to be played with almost any off-field character. She just converts the damage, and she has naturally somewhat high multipliers because of it. You don't have to buff her to high heavens for her to actually deal good damage. You could throw in just 3 other random 4-star damage dealers, even like, I don't know, Kaya, Rosaria, characters that aren't getting much of an actual buff, but Chaska simply takes the element and actually deals damage. She'll still deal like a 30 to 40k on just that one bullet, even though she wasn't getting an attack buff from Kaya or whatever other buff, right? Once you make those characters also be buffers, though, it goes pretty crazy, like Sitlali, Mawika, and Bennett, right? Or Farina. So yeah, Chaska just feels really good. She's going to be great in the Stygian with that boss coming up. She did just do this Abyss pretty easily, like I talked about earlier. So she's just proven herself to be a very decent character. Not top 5. She's not like a super crazy DPS. She's not breaking charts and stuff, but she can clear the content and do it pretty consistently. One way I like to think of Chaska is she's kind of the Navia of Animo.
I was just about to say,
if that makes sense. Navia and Chaska both take those other elements and use them to amplify their own usability. Like for Chaska, she's converting that damage. Now she's dealing the pyro, the hydro, electro, cryo damage. Navia's using it. She's still dealing geo damage, but she's using it to gain more stacks of crystallized to deal more of that geo damage. So their team building is going to feel very similar. Let's say you have a Navia team already, you can literally just take out Navia and sub it in with Chaska, and chances are it'll probably work at a very similar power level. Yeah,
I think overall, in general, I think the best candidate here as characters is probably going to be Sitlali and Chaska. I think just enough is, in my opinion, just a little bit of an easier skip, and Mualani is as well. I think for the people who want to pick up either weapons or whatnot, that might be helpful. Sitlali, if you don't have Sitlali's weapon, definitely a very good strong increase. Even if you have a Mawika team, she just has a really good weapon that has a very, very good amount of damage tied to it, especially if you're looking for Stygian clears. That weapon is going to be helpful to an insane amount. Chaska, obviously, if you're having issues with this type of content, I've even thought about pulling her just because of how much of a need
She's
I
fun,
might
man.
need in certain areas. But once again, that just brings a lot of help and opportunities and different types of content, different types of things, figuring out what you're kind of weak on in each part of the content as the game changes to see what you might need. Now, I kind of showed it a second earlier than we wanted to, but I do want to obviously jump quickly right over into, and this is going to be very quick. We're going to jump over into our dev discussion.
Yay.
We were going to kind of make our own like video on this kind of separately when it first dropped, but as you can tell, with this being like 5 days later as of recording this, and it's not going to be out for another couple of days, we didn't really see any urgency, and you're going to kind of see why. So first and foremost, dev discussion 7.16. So here we have, starting in version 5.8, the dev team has brought new features such as the one-click time skip for quests and video demos for character talents. So as you can see here, it's just going to instantly do that immediately change. So you can click on and navigate, like if you have your little thing that says, hey, wait till 6 o'clock the next day, 1800, it's going to immediately just do it for you in the time, so you don't have to open up your your menu if you're lazy.
It's really just a bunch of
couple of clicks
quality
less.
of life interfacing shortcuts, which doesn't really ultimately change the game. So
Audio, yeah, exactly. It's the same thing here. It's like audio stuff.
Again, it is nice. It is quality of life, but that's why it's nothing like actually game changing. This is not like, hey, we're adding a new thing into the game that's going to change how we actually approach the game or play the game or help us with this over here. This is just like, some people won't even notice there was a change with these kind of things.
Probably not. I mean, this next one, you're definitely probably wouldn't even know it if you weren't paying attention, which is like changing your audio in the middle of quest dialogue. So if you accidentally had your audio off, like I do whenever we record and I have Genshin playing while we were looking at the Abyss stuff, I turn the audio all the way down. If I go do a quest right now and I forget to turn it back on, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not gonna like go bat crap crazy that I didn't see, I'm not hearing the characters in my ear. But if you really want to, obviously, if you accidentally turn down your volumes and you want to change some stuff, yeah. All
right, anyways.
But yeah, the next obviously is we have some world exploration, which they basically made it so the local specialty characters that can actually help show you this type of stuff, or who it actually works for, so here obviously we have these special flowers, and it'll be Kanish, Molani, and Kachina that it's going to be used for.
I actually did like this one. I know it's a small thing, but like, sometimes there have been times where I'm like, okay, I need to go get these materials for this character. Which character is it again that can see them on the map? Like if it's like a Leeway or Inazuma specialty, I'm like, sometimes I don't always remember. Wait, which character sees that on the map? And like, for Leeway, I know Chi-Chi's one of them. But like, you don't always remember that. Like, I go to Inazuma and I'm like, who is it again? Goro or like what? Like, so this, it is nice to just be, it tells me who I need to follow. Let me go pull them out in a team. And
especially with all the regions we have now, right? And I mean, that's actually, it was great to have Kachina as well as the first, like, the free character we got during one of the events.
Yeah, that's actually,
so it was she was really, really helpful to find new stuff for us and make it a lot easier. And obviously now, we'll see a little bit more there, but
we'll see if the new 4-star
life
for Nodcry does the same thing, where you can put her in a team and she shows Nodcry stuff. Like, let's hope, That'd be nice.
Then the next thing is Oculus Resonance Stone upgrade. You can consume another Oculus Resonance Stone to make a new one. You know what? We're just going to skip past that and pretend that wasn't even stated, because at this point, it's, to help travelers select suitable artifacts for their characters more easily. Basically, if you don't know how to tell whether or not an artifact's good or not, hey, here you go. If you didn't know how to pay attention to artifacts yet after, I guess, getting 5-star artifacts and grinding this hard, if you didn't know how to do that already,
AR 45 at least and everything, so
the game's now going to tell you how to make it work. And then we talked, this was at the top, looking at how before it kind of just told you, like in Star Rail, how it kind of just like tells you what the character does and how, like, what it states when you're in the character demo, but now it actually is going to show you how it works. So there's Skirk's special elemental burst. So you tap this, you hold the skill to kind of like go into your free kind of like flying form, and then you use your burst immediately after, and it can show you how to actually do it. So that's kind of it, and that's the very short, fast, and quick end to our things to say with the developers discussion. Obviously, we know that there's nothing crazy new that ever comes with these developers discussions. We understand that that's just kind of the territory that comes with it. But
yeah, it's more or less like
yeah,
with dev discussions, we as players are always looking for what's going to be in the devs discussion that is going to change the game. Like, what's the big
correct.
thing, the cool thing? Like, there's
And
always
that
been
one,
some things like adding the what we thought was artifact loadouts, or like adding just some other stuff I can't remember off the top of my head. But that's like what we're always looking for in a dev discussion. Oh, dev
resin
discussion. Where
changes, stuff like
where's
that.
like
Yeah.
where's the big thing, right? And that's what we're looking for. And so when there's nothing like that and it's just a bunch of quality of life, you just kind of walk away from it depressed, like, all right, just another dev discussion where they didn't listen to us. All right, cool.
By the way, just saying, I've been saying it for the past 5 years or something now.
Yeah, I know what you're gonna
Make
say.
it so that Statues of the Seven can give me my burst back, all of them. If it heals
I've heard
me, it
this
should just
so many
instantly
times.
give me burst back. All right, anyways, beyond that, that's a pet peeve I've had for years. So anyways, jumping on to the next thing, obviously we're now getting into the next part, considering the dev discussion didn't have something fantastic like transient resin, or something brand new like adding more resin, or something like artifact loadouts that did
An
nothing for
actual
us.
loadout.
Yeah. Now we're going to be jumping into some stuff, looking into the future, looking into some speculation stuff. So if you guys kind of either want to, we kind of purposely put this at the end to kind of have everything else kind of there. So if you guys want to be done here now, you can. The rest of this is going to be looking forward into the next bit. So spoiler alert. Now we're going to be getting into that part.
Spoiler, not Krai stuff. If you don't want to hear it, then now's your chance to leave.
Yeah, click off. So anyway, jumping right into it, first and foremost, we have a bunch of brand new things. Now, with the brand new, you've probably already seen the little demo teaser type thing for Nodcry, and you've seen a brand new character. Now, that brand new character that we saw that looked like a purple deer looking thing, at first we believed she was a Dendro character, and she is. She's also, her name is supposedly Llama. Now I have no clue, it's Lauma or Llama or something like that. It's Lauma.
For now, since I don't know, I'm saying something like Lauma or Lauma or something, because I'm not about to call this character Llama, because now I'm just thinking, oh yeah, she's just a freaking alpaca or whatever.
I mean, she is a deer, so I don't know, but Llama, either way,
No,
that's
she's
what
a
it looks
deer.
like she's gonna
Get
be.
it right.
Yeah, but she looks like she's going to be in the second half. She's going to be the 5-star Dendro Catalyst character. So we have another Baiju similar archetyped character. It looks like she's going to be off field, but we'll get into more of her kit in a minute. We'll talk about some other characters that are going to be releasing in 6.0 supposedly as well. One of the other characters in the first half is going to be the 5-star Electro adult male character we're going to be getting, and it's going to be a bow character. So it's very interesting because in 5.8 we're getting a Electro, character with Anefa, and then 6.0 we're jumping right into a 5-star Electro polearm user, or a bow, or polearm. A lot of people have been bouncing back before whether or not they're a polearm or a bow. I think it's polearm, but whatever.
So if he's Electro and Neff is also Electro, do you think, kind of like one of two things in my mind, they're either trying to make Anefa be the premium support for him, kind of like Emily for Kanish, because Emily and Kanish were also same element. I'm just thinking out on my butt here, right? So either Anefa is the premium support for him, or he's going to be working with a totally different reaction. Like Anefa is Lunar Charge, maybe he's like Lunar Aggravate or something. I don't know. What do you think?
Maybe. I mean, and that's the other thing. If you try to mix them together, I mean, that brings up some sort of hyper bloom. So does that mean then you can start using Lauma, whatever her name is, in the team as well? Does that mean that you can start making some sort of
use
like
the deer, use the
yeah, just slap those 3 characters in a team and then put Farina in there and call it a day?
There's a hyper bloom team. Boom. There you go. Lunar hyper bloom.
There you go. But you've also got
solved.
Electro Charge going, hopefully, and you've maybe got some spread going, I guess. I don't know. There's just so much that's going on with these lunar reactions. There's a lot to really like open up and talk about. So
yeah,
that's
it is
something
interesting
there.
nonetheless, though, to have like 2 back-to-back of the same element. Just once again reminds me of Emily Kanish, because they were also back-to-back. Well, not really. We had Mualani in between them, so not really. But I don't know. It could be like what we said. Do you think Anefa will be a premium support for him? Like what you think will be there? Like, do you think they'll be separated or what?
Personally, I think they'll be separated. Now, I think that they could work together, but I think his thing is not going to be electrocharged or
Yeah, it'll
lunar
probably
charged,
yeah.
if you will.
It'd be
That's
weird.
just my opinion. Now, they might still be able to work together because all this stuff is still, you know,
Very like subject to change.
very
We
new, and
just got this
obviously,
information
I
in the
mean, we're
first
gonna
place.
know for sure probably next week, but for now, at least the information's kind of here on what we have. So I think they could. And talking about that, actually, what may bring either more help to your point or maybe negate your point, we have a 4-star character on that first half that's dropping as well. A brand new character named Aino, Aino, but it's going to be a 4-star Hydro character. It's like a girl type, and it is going to be a Claymore user. So Hydro Claymore is finally becoming an archetype in the video game.
Finally, oh my
So
goodness.
I know you've been waiting for that for the longest time possible.
That's what we needed in Dahlia, and then Dahlia was just a filler patch.
We're at this point we're gonna just see what happens, but there is also something else, you know, that could kind of helpful there, and maybe he will be useful with you know, this other character, and kind of bringing all that together. There is going to be supposedly a new artifact set that's going to drop, which is going to be related to EM. Now, this is kind of interesting because if I remember correctly, when we dropped in a new 5.0 area, we did have new sets drop as well. So this is only one set, so maybe the other set is actually going to be helpful for mainly more lunar reaction damage. Kind of like how we have the difference between, you know, we have one set that's going to be related to EM, so that could be your support set or maybe something like that, because lunar reactions do have to deal with EM, but also crit. So there's like a lot of things going on there. And then maybe that's your support set.
Like, it's bringing back element impact, you know?
Yes.
Does that make any sense? Like Dendro really opened up that. It became
correct, yeah.
Just element impact. All right, EM is everything now. The game is match the colors, right? It's not about this character can deal XYZ damage. It's match the colors, you will win, right? Kuki Hyperbloom, Virgin Toma. And then we moved out of that into Fontaine and Natlan, where it was this character just deals this much damage. It's more straight power. The reactions obviously still matter, but it was definitely less of element impact, and we moved into just power impact, I guess.
And now it's a mix of both with Stygian.
Yeah,
now it's
like, all right, now let's do both. All right, crit, EM, all of it. Do reactions, but still deal damage, like good, you know, crit damage and stuff.
Which makes sense. The longer we get in the game, you have to keep power scaling and power.
They're like, all right, what do we do next?
creeping.
I guess we just got to like merge all of it. We'll figure out 7.0 later. Like,
Yeah, exactly, right? Like I'm not even gonna pretend to even think about that. But you know, I think it's gonna be very interesting. I think the other set's probably gonna be something like, if you do lunar, you know, damage, it's like, you know, maybe the 2 pieces, you know, increase, you know, lunar type damage, and then the 4 pieces give 80% crit rate and 900% crit damage when you do a lunar reaction, because that's legitimately that's how it feels, right? Like we had Mare Chaussee in Fontaine, which was change your HP, which was the entire idea with Fontainian characters. Change your HP, you're going to do more damage. Or you're going to get higher crit rate, which means you can put your stats into something else and do more damage. Then we had Obsidian Codex, which was, here's a bunch of crit because you do Night Soul damage, which means now once again you can put your other stats into something else besides crit and do more damage. Here, I'm just waiting for them to be like, okay, 2-piece lunar charge damage or lunar reaction damage increase, 4-piece
15% or whatever.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, here's some 15% crit rate, and it stacks 3 times when you do lunar reactions, and boom, 45% crit rate, and it's, you know, that's it, and we call it a day. Which I know we talked about that actually with our last collaboration video that we did with Flip, we did with Jay Stern, Andad, and Red Warrior. And we were talking about, also known as the Genshin Idiot, which is hilarious. I love that when you pull that up, it kind of the jump in the difference. But I think, you know, when we talked to them, that was definitely something that was brought up, like looking at that. We did talk about lunar reactions as well at this point. So new 6.0 stuff looks cooler and cooler the more you get into it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are also, just kind of on a side tangent, excited for the story, because obviously when they were like marketing Not Krai in general, the marketing just kind of, everything kind of felt like it took a shift. Like when now we're getting this Song of the Welkin Moon, it feels like they're trying to push not like Genshin 2, right? But like definitely like it feels very standalone, and not just a continuation of like what we've already been doing. Because we thought, like a year ago, a lot of us were thinking, oh, it's okay, Fontaine. Next is Natlin. Okay, next is Snezhnaya. And then all of a sudden we're getting, in the mid of Natlin, we're getting all this, oh, actually, Nod Cry, Song of the Welcome Moon. I'm not a lore buff or anything, so I don't really know what all that means. I just know from a marketing perspective or a just regular casual player perspective, it's like, oh, something feels different here. It's okay. We're pushing off Snezhnaya. Now we're getting Nod Cry. It just there's a whole different.
It feels
vibe
like a
to the whole
dive into
thing.
the abyss, a very different change.
Yeah,
Almost
and it's
like
very interesting. Is what I'm.
It's like they're building up the world, because for the longest time, Genshin has always been about, you know, having a lot of secrets and slowly like like dropping things here and there to kind of like
we're getting to the
lore.
real nitty gritty. Really, Mondstadt, Leeway,
Now they're opening up.
That was the filler when we thought it was the main quest.
The more and more they've ripped off the facade is now like what you're talking about. They're ripping off the facade of what Teyvat might be and how it works, and we're now starting to peel back layers like way more than we used to.
We're finally at episode 465 where it actually starts to get good. We're finding the One Piece,
this
guys.
is literally One Piece. Yeah. I think I totally would have to agree. I think it's a very big change, and I think these characters are going to be a very big thing about it. And also, even what we got told is there might be a new promotional video. It'll probably be out by the time this video's out, but it will be going over some things with Nod Cry, but specifically most, if not all, of the Harbingers. Supposedly all the Harbingers are going to be in it. It's going to have that idea. So we've already seen a promotional video with it last time they did.
Okay,
so what are we going to see
is
here?
It kind of like the Winter Night Lazo or whatever? I remember we got that like way before even Fontaine or something, which that was like a massive lore drop because we didn't really have anything to go off of for at least the Fatui lineup. So I feel like maybe it'll be something like that.
They said what's her name was going to be dead.
Specific, but
like in that video, what's her name was literally a casket was right there in front of us. Now supposedly Capitano is still going to be in the video, and so is what's her name?
Senora? Is that
Senora supposedly, and Scaramouche. So all three of the defected /
Castaway,
Thanos snapped characters are going to be possibly in this trailer as well. Now, once again, could just be blowing smoke right now, and there could not be any fire with where the smoke is. But once again, by the time this video is out, everyone will know, and you'll at least be able to maybe, make some connections here and there. But going back to some more stuff from what we see that looking at one of the characters, we have some more 6.1 stuff, and it looks like right now one of the 6.1 characters is probably going to be a pretty big character who's going to be a very big support, like a pyro off-field burning support. No lunar reactions, which is very interesting, but supposedly is supposed to be a replace for Xiangling and Bennett. Like, there's going to be some changes here. I don't know how. Look, I am
finally
all
gonna
for
get the actual replacement when we thought that's what other characters would be.
I am all here for getting rid of Xiangling. There's no way in any world that you can get rid of Bennett. I can't believe it. So we'll have to see on that one. But there's some interesting things on 6.1, 6.2, who's releasing, who's not. I feel like it's a little bit too far for us to really dive into, and there's a lot of extra things to talk about. We've seen Columbina already make some changes, so maybe we'll actually get a Harbinger that we can have playable in this time period, because if I remember correctly, we didn't get a Harbinger for Natlin, which, by the way,
you're right.
I'm going to cry because...
That's crazy. The newest one's still Arlecchino, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Which is going to make me Nod cry because I love my Harbingers. So sucks a little bit that we didn't have any, but yeah, I know. I did a play on words, okay?
All right, okay, Sino.
But yeah, yeah, literally. But we do, we might see her, and I honestly wouldn't be mad if, 6.5 rolls around 6.6 where she drops. That'd be really, really cool. But we'll have to see. There'll be definitely some cool, interesting stuff. But talking about cool and interesting stuff, looking at, that was kind of a base overview of all the characters. Everybody's so hyped about Llama, and supposedly I have no clue on this one yet, which we'll see in weeks to come probably, but her VA is supposedly Alexandra Guelph. I have no clue how to say your name, I'm so sorry, but she is Contarella's VA from Wuthering Waves.
Oh no, here come the Kurobots. No. Oh no, literally. They can't share. That's crazy. They need a recast because they can't have a Wuthering Waves character be in Genshin. That's a felony.
Yeah, now it's just going to be hatred all over the place from everyone. That's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. But I mean, from what we can see from Lauma at the very least, 5-star Dendro Catalyst, which we've already talked about. I've wanted to say, and it looks like everybody and their mom is saying the exact same thing now, which I had no clue until you talked about this before. But I was like, I can't wait for them to be Lunar Bloom. We talked about it in our Discord a little bit, which if you guys want to, go ahead and join our Discord. In our Leaks channel, where I was like, you know what, okay, I would love to see a Lunar Bloom support. Bloom's kind of fallen off a little bit. I can't wait. Then all of a sudden, everybody and their mom the past few days has been like, oh yeah, Lunar Bloom, by the way. And I'm like, did they bug my server? Like, what happened here? Why is it?
That's my idea.
Just get like, but I think like honestly, it's kind of, there's only so many reactions that can kind of be stated like that.
Yeah.
I know you were talking about that to me, Riff, beforehand. There's only so much really that you can think about, and Bloom makes the next best sense. So.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see if Nilou comes back a little bit, because Nilou, when she came out, was really, really good. A lot of people had talked about that. It was amazing because, oh my goodness, EM's the meta now. Nahida's going to come out later and make her even more busted. You know, Sino got left in the dust. You kind of remember the history there. So Nilou was awesome. She was definitely in the meta. Like, that was the thing. It was just the caveat to it was it was incredibly niche.
Are you telling me I have to pull Nahida now? Is that what I'm hearing?
Now you have to pull. You're gonna have to pull Nahida that you've been waiting on forever. Now you're also gonna have to pull Nilou, right? If you want this new character.
Okay, look, I can pull Nahida. I'm not sure I can pull Nilou because I have Nahida's weapon, and I've wanted to pull Nahida. But I did it out of principle, not pulling Nahida for a long time because I have Alhaitham, and everybody told me to.
Like, no, I will not do it. But
now
I
might have to.
At least with Llama, you won't have to, be stuck to Nilou. That's just one of the options. Like, you can still do the Hyper Bloom variant, a Burgeon variant, or just something else. I think they're not gonna. I don't know. I'd be surprised if they made her that restricted, but then again, I wouldn't because of what they've recently done with Escoffier, Skirk. Like, those are restrictive characters, let's be honest. So maybe she will be restrictive to just Bloom, Hyper Bloom stuff, but it's like really, really ridiculously and disgustingly good. Or maybe it's an option and she actually can be thrown in some just generic Dendro teams as just a kind of Nahida replacement or a Baiju replacement, or just kind of be application as well as some damage. Can you still use her in those other teams, or is it once again just one of those characters where you kind of want Nilou or you kind of want Kuki, something like that, or it's gonna maybe Nilou's gonna get a rerun and she's gonna be pushed for because I guess at this point she is kind of due for it. Then again,
what
Nilou
about
might
the
be
next
in the Sumeru Chronicled Wish?
I was gonna say, what about the Sumeru Chronicled Wish, and then you slap Nahida right around it? That could be what we're getting into. I mean, remember, we talked about this in the past where they were doing a lot of these Chronicled Wishes a lot faster. Yes. What happens when this lunar reaction comes with Lauma in 6.0? What happens in 6.1 when they slap a Chronicled Wish there? Right before 6.2 when the next big character usually comes in and the next meta breaking character. I think
we're onto something. EM's becoming the meta again. They might as
well
throw
Nahida
the EM Archon.
Do they even run the Archon? Are they going to come out with a character that's going to practically make her null and void? Anyway, that's probably a topic
speculation for that. We'll talk more about it in the future, but it's definitely food for thought. So let us know in the comments what you guys think on that specifically. But what are we looking at next?
Lauma's kit specifically. Some ideas with what her kit looks like. She looks like she's going to have a skill that's going to apply Dendro in the background and follows the active character. AoE is kind of similar to Kirara's, so probably not an insane amount of... It'll probably be good for application, but not necessarily an insane amount of AoE hits. But her burst, supposedly it's going to grant a special effect for a certain duration. During that time, Lauma is going to gain certain stacks, and then when any team member triggers a Lunar Bloom specific reaction, and considering she's on the team, she'll most likely make it available for anybody in the party to trigger that Lunar Bloom reaction as long as they are Hydro Dendro characters. And when they do this, they will get they'll consume one of these stacks that Lauma gets to boost the damage of that Dendro core. So looking at Lunar Bloom in a very basic sense, it states that its formula is similar to Lunar Electrocharge, which if you don't know how Lunar Electrocharge, it's basically shared crit, EM, bunch of weird stats, and slapping everything together between making reactions like that actually crit, which wasn't a thing before until you got into Constellations. It's very interesting stuff. And then it talks about here in Lunar Bloom, the Dendro cores that are created can crit, and can trigger Hyperbloom and Burgeon, but also can be converted into Bountiful Cores by Nilou, which, if you have C2 Nilou or C2 Nahida, supposedly, you can also make it crit. So
It's gonna be busted.
My question, here's the thing that's kind of racking my brain. Let's say you have a C2 Nahida, or C2 Nilou, because you can make things crit with the C2 Nilou, right? You make a Bountiful Core, and you can make it crit. Let's say it's a 40k damage hit, and then you can make a crit to 80k, right? Because it's because it's a 20% crit rate and 100% crit damage, so it's basically doubling.
Yeah, it is fixed. So that is the kind of the caveat to that C2 Nahida is it allows that to crit, but it is fixed.
What happens when you run Lauma in the team and she has a certain amount of crit, right? Let's say you crit build her for 190% crit damage just to go insane. There's two things that can happen. Either the crit starts to stack and you crit and then crit again, so you over crit, you double crit basically. Or a possible worse thing, does a C2 Nahida become the C6 Bennett and actually override the new Lunar Bloom crit and now makes it so you can only do, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Is she going to be the actual new C6 problem?
I feel like it would be more like
I'm playing devil's advocate here.
They're both there, and it chooses just the one that obviously has more. It may be like that, but I do know what you're saying, and that is kind of a scary thought.
I'm just saying that.
That is
I'm
scary.
playing devil's advocate here.
If you have C2 Nahida, that means your fixed crit for those
it's 100%.
Cores exploding 20%, 100%. It's not saying it has to stay there. It just means they can't. It's allowing them to crit, and here's the crit that it starts out with. I feel like maybe Lauma will add on to that. They might combine, because that, I don't know, that's just what would make sense to me, because then, yeah, you're actually hurting yourself by getting C2 Nahida. Or if you already have C2 Nahida, you're kind of screwed.
Does that mean you go on a 30% crit rate over 200% crit damage Lauma, and then basically get a 50 over 300 on your lunar crit? What, you know what I mean? Now you're starting to see where does that. Once again, this is all extreme speculation. We have no clue how this is going to work.
Yeah, and
we don't even know if this is necessarily correct either. But
right, it's probably not, for being honest. But like, you don't even traditionally build Nilou for crit at all. Like, you do not get crit on Nilou, and even after all of this, I still would think you don't, because you want as much HP as possible to increase the Bountiful Core damage, which can crit with either C2 Nahida. It will crit with Lauma. You still want HP because that passive talent with Nilou increases the overall damage it is dealing. It's by every 1,000 HP you have, it's 9%, and it stacks up to a certain percentage. That max HP is somewhere like 74,000. So you go full HP on Nilou no matter what, because that's just damage increase for the entire team of just bloom damage. So that's not going to change most likely. Lauma will be the one that you're putting crit on with probably a good amount of EM, I imagine, just because that seems to be coming back, as well as if she's actually creating some of the cores herself, you want to make sure she has high EM so that the core she's generating have the damage, because the core, whoever's creating the core, that core's damage is dependent on that character's level in EM. It's not like that is shared, if that makes any sense. So generally in a bloom team, you want everyone to have good EM. So I don't know, it's very interesting. It's theory crafters are gonna have a real fun time with this one.
All I'm saying is that they bring back Stygian or something with an extreme amount of AoE that I have to deal with super blooming for like
You're gonna bring Nivelette, try to do like a Nivelette Loma thing.
I'm gonna
with Baiju or something.
I'm gonna log off. That's what's gonna happen. But yeah, I mean, and obviously she has her own passive talent.
Log off. Just pops up on the screen.
Just, all right, hit the end button. That's it. But yeah, I mean, here we have the passive talent. Obviously, she triggers a bloom reaction instead of a lunar bloom reaction, like we stated. So very interesting stuff. And she even has a little part of her kit, supposedly, that might pop in that's going to say that she might have the ability to heal. That is probably going to be locked behind her C1. I'm sure people are not going to be happy about that at all. But if that is even a thing, that might be something that actually might be cool to see. At least maybe some constellations that actually might be useful, considering we have Nilou bloom teams where it hurts the character. So instead of getting somebody like Baiju, should you just grab a constellation and free up a fourth slot, you know, for a different character that can either help with more damage or be better at, you know, creation, or is he still good, or is there a better character in the future? You see my point? Like, maybe, you know, we'll have to see, is that going to be actually something useful or not?
There's another thing, like going back to how Lunar Bloom crit may work. We kind of already know how the lunar charged works because we have that. We've had the official live stream for NFA already, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know how that works. All we're getting here is that it's similar to it, and then it continues to say the dendro cores generated can crit. There really isn't anything here that says it's a fixed crit value, or that it even more than that even. There's nothing here that says it will be based on the character's
On
crit,
character's
like
crit,
lunar
yeah.
charged is. That might be a lunar charge
It could be
specific
stuck
thing.
to 20 over 100.
Yeah, it could just
like
be
the other
another, hey, this is
constellations.
what it is. So I don't know.
That's a
There's
good
lot
point,
that can happen.
actually.
It depends on what the character's kit is gonna say, because this is just super vague. If we're being completely honest,
No, yeah,
there's a
Llama's
lot. There's
kit
a room.
is
There's way
very...
too much room for speculation. We need more specificity with a
which
character
we're
kit.
going to see next week. Like, that's
Yeah,
the thing. We're going to
yeah.
see more next week when we get a lot more of information kind of given. And we'll even get more on the other character that'll be dropped as well, and even the 4-star Hydra support. So that'll definitely be information for us to talk about in the future.
Yeah,
But
it'll be great.
speaking of that other 4-star, supposedly we're going to get her for free, which makes the most sense with like a free Kachina. We already had one. Going back, usually we get a free character at the beginning of each area, like you were talking about, that's going to help you. We already have this kind of being stated. One copy of Hydra 4-star is available for free to complete puzzles which require lunar reactions. Once again, same thing with Kachina, allows you to use Night Soul to kind of help you traverse and do things in the overworld and events even that might want a lunar. Because obviously not everybody is going to be pulling out the wazoo for all of these characters, especially free-to-play players, as it gets more difficult to be pulling everything for you guys. So it at least kind of opens the door there for a little bit easier to kind of do what we have. But that's kind of really it for leaks in general and kind of what we have for at least what we have in Genshin this week. There's been a lot of new information, and like Rift, you kind of perfectly put, we'll see a lot more next week and actually get to see what's going to be there and how it's going to work a little bit better in the future when we actually have kits that we can read to you guys, maybe explain. Even if it goes through some versions of changes, at least we'll get some actual real answers soon.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited because, yeah, just 6.0 in general. We're all looking forward to just a lot of new content. It's going to be great.
Yeah, well, if you guys are excited, let us go ahead and let us know down in the comments, obviously, but also let us know what you guys are expecting, or maybe what you're hoping for, maybe what you guys are thinking about these specific kits, or maybe how things are going to work in the future. Let us know what you guys think of the next version. Are these next banners going to be good, bad, or indifferent? Let us know whatever we've talked about in this video. If you guys have any thoughts, let us know down below. Obviously, we do have a Discord as well we always like to talk about. If you guys want to jump in there, we're usually in there pretty often to kind of just either hang out with people and also kind of just chill out and talk. We show a lot of information in there, chill, talk out. It's a great place to kind of have other Genshin people that are kind of playing the games, and even the other gachas as well. It's kind of a space for everyone to be there. So if you want to, please go ahead and join that as well. And we do want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you guys once again, and we will see you guys in the next one.